Tonight's stories come from the places where the familiar turns fatal, where a sneeze carries a curse, where conviction kills, where love rots into obsession. You'll hear the knock that shouldn't be answered, and the voice that calls your name long after it's gone. 5 tales, 5 ways the world unravels when something human goes just a little wrong. Welcome to Nightmare Proof, where true horror comes alive. Here, you'll hear real stories of the strange, the disturbing, and the unexplainable. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to face the darkness. Story 1. I think I've caught fairy flu. It started with a sneeze. I was hanging out with my friends, the 4 of us swimming in raindrops, drowning fresh flower buds, when Yuri sneezed next to me. It was violent enough to jolt his whole body, his wings twitching. He sniffled, and then sneezed again, quietly, into his hands. I laughed, but Yuri was staring down at his palm, his bottom lip wobbling. "Yuri?" I whispered. Before he could respond, Taya and Calden cannonballed into a flower bud. I longed to join them, bathing in the early morning sunlight, letting my wings soak up some vitamin D. At 14 years old, they had only just broken through, and I was still wobbly while in flight. Yuri, normally the loud, bubbly one in our group trying to antagonize the Fey Prince, was oddly quiet. When I shoved him, I caught him swiping his palm on his shirt. The glimmer of golden pollen streaked across the fabric. He jumped up, grabbed my hand, and pulled me into a teasing waltz, dragging me onto a blooming daffodil. "Madam." He shot me a grin, sweat shimmering on his forehead. "May I have this dance?" 24 hours later, Yuri was dead. Taya was throwing up blood, and Calden had ripped his own mother's head off. I was lucky to be alive. But whatever this thing was, whatever and whoever the 4 of us had made contact with, was dead within 24 hours. The symptoms, according to my father, varied from sneezing, headache, and misshapen wings to neurological damage. The sickness had a name within 5 days, but half of my village was dead. Idiopathic acute fairy syndrome. Dad managed to gather antibodies from baby fairies who survived. He developed a cure. However, Prince Juniper's grieving father came out with a statement. "This cure is not a cure at all. It strips us of our magic." His claim was that his dead son tried the cure before his death, and it didn't just kill him, it purged his body of its fairy dust. But Prince Juniper died at the beginning, before the cure. Despite the king's lies, survivors turned on my father. I found him dead, hanging from a tangled vine, his head cruelly severed. Outside, villagers rejoiced, choosing the king's natural cure, instead ingesting sunburned rose petals. But the vocal ones got quieter, and so did my village. I started stepping over bodies on my way to get supplies, tripping over festering wings, mutilated bodies, where fairies had attacked each other, the sickness turning them on each other. I knew I was sick when I coughed a little too hard, choking up fairy dust. When I took flight, I tumbled down, 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 my wings breaking on impact. I lay on my front, trying to catch my breath, wheezing, when something lifted me high into the air. "Ooh, a butterfly!" The human child held me curiously, massaging my broken wings. "So pretty," she squeaked, giggling, her fingertips glistening in sunlight-streaked pollen. "Achoo!" Story 2. A sexist man has abducted a feminist and is trying to force her to make a sandwich, but she is staying defiant. A sexist man kidnapped a feminist and tried to force her to make him a sandwich. She calmly said no, and she wasn't tied up, and she seemed comfortable. The man then got his eldest son and got a knife out and held it towards his neck. He shouted at the feminist woman, "If you don't make me a sandwich, then I will. Slaughter my son!" And the woman calmly said no. She wasn't scared, and she kept her composure, and the sexist man's son pleaded with her to make a sandwich so he doesn't get killed. The woman stayed strong and said refused to do it. The sexist man was confused, and he didn't realize how tough this woman would be. He now had to prove himself as a man and go through with killing his son. He killed his son, and the woman didn't care at all. Then, the man got his daughter out and placed a knife next to her neck. The sexist man then shouted at the woman, "Make me a sandwich, or I will kill my daughter." And the woman was all calm and collected, and she still denied him. The sexist man couldn't believe how strong this woman was. The sexist man now had to prove that his threat was real. He didn't want to kill his daughter, but as a man, he has to go through with it now. His daughter begged the woman to make a sandwich, but the woman stayed strong and said no, and she was incredibly confident. The sexist man was really feeling the heat now, and he didn't want to kill his daughter. He shouted at the woman, "Just make me a sandwich or I will kill my daughter." But the woman stayed strong. The sexist man couldn't believe what he was going through. He had no idea how tough this woman would be, and then he murdered his daughter. He blamed the woman that he kidnapped for the death of his daughter. "Why can't you just make me a sandwich, and now both my children are dead?" The sexist man shouted out loud. The woman was confident, and then things started to move on their own. Objects moved across the room, and it was the ghosts of the sexist man's children. They were stuck in this world until the woman makes a sandwich. The woman still defiant, and the sexist man fell to his knees, with the knife in his neck now. "Make me a sandwich or I will kill myself," the sexist man told the woman. "No," she replied, and the man took his own life, and she then just got up and walked out. Story 3. I've been watching you, my love. I lay in your warm room, allowing my mind to wander, thinking back on all the good times I've had with you. I sit in this room, studying all the things making you, staring into the piles of stuffed animals, coffee pods stacked high, and books stacked even higher. Seriously, how do you read all of these? I think back to when we first came into contact. We passed by, something she probably has no memory of. You were a knee-high girl, 5 to 7 at most, waltzing through the aisles. A few weeks later, I couldn't get you out of my mind. It was the first time I broke into your room. You still have the stuffed animals. Your favorite is a pig named Polly. But everything else has changed. Your princess dresses changed to crop tops and leggings. Your long blonde hair usually smelled like watermelon then, but now it's scented like the sweetest cherries, matching the cute little socks you have. Your skin used to be blotted with pimples, scratches, and deep ease wounds you wanted no one else to see. Those nights were the hardest, hearing you cry out into the pillow but not being able to hold my little girl. Now, you're 20 years old, leaving dear old dad and mom safely at home, promising to be good at school. Of course you will be. I've been watching. After any man left, I followed, confronting once we got far enough away. Throwing stuff towards the window, making sure my girl maintained a PG-13 rating anytime some disgusting boy wanted to make things X-rated. You really should thank me. You don't know how much I've done for you. I've waited 15 years to meet you. It's a chilly Saturday night, almost a week later, and I'm in the midst of my newest masterpiece, sawing off the buttocks of this girl. She's not my girl, but close enough. The girl in front of me, I think her name is Maeve, is silent, but the chloroform is going to wear off soon. She was one of my girl's friends. I need to finish before that happens. I cannot have her wake up. She is the only one who knew about me. I wanted to be normal, I swear. I promise I grew up just like you. I watched Saturday morning cartoons, ate sweet bowls of Fruity Pebbles, and played with my friends in the creek after school. I used to be normal. This obsession with this girl just overtook me. I started watching her when she was in elementary school. She passed me in the store, said she was sorry, and moved on with her life. She probably didn't even remember it by the end of her life. Stephanie was a gorgeous blonde girl with mocha brown eyes. She loves the color purple and tries to seem put together, but she cries into her stuffed pig that she's had since she was a baby. She liked to wear sweater dresses and low-rise jeans to seem different from other girls her age. Her hair was long, falling to the middle of her back in small ringlets. I love remembering what my baby looks like. Well, now it would be looked like, I suppose. I left her room splattered in, her dark red innards. No matter how hard I tried to maintain her precious figure, Stephanie had started to realize too much and decided to squeal to Maeve about her problem. Kind of rude to imply that I'm a problem when I do nothing but keep her safe, but whatever. Unfortunately, seeing as Maeve tried to protect her friend, it means that her time is over. The chloroform wore off now, and Maeve is waking up. I'm only halfway through. She needs to shut the fuck up. I clasp my hand over her mouth, whispering in her ear that the more she keeps screaming, the more this is going to hurt. I lean over, grabbing the gag I had used when I grabbed her from the dorm room. These college girls go to get an education, but some of them are just so dense. Really, you think the man who fell over while putting something in his car needs help getting up? I'm only 45, I'm not that old. She keeps screaming, refusing to stop. I slam my fist into her face, feeling the bones turning to mush below me. This part always makes me nauseous, but when bitches can't learn their place, you do what has to be done. Women loved me when I was in college. They used to flock to me. These new age women have no idea what they're avoiding. All these dirty looks they give, the grimace as I pass them, everything they choose to do in those disgusting clubs. My baby never did that. She would never give me a look like that. Even when she saw me in her room after she got out of the shower, the delicious cherry smell followed her throughout the apartment. She didn't give me any ounce of disgust in that precious face. Even when she saw the knife I branded, she refused to scrunch up the cute button nose adorning her face. She just got that confused look on her face, the one that makes me see her like a little bunny. Now that Maeve made her fatal mistake, she is going to need to be moved. As I round the corner, I see two policemen having a conversation. I'm on my way back to my apartment, trying to avoid the very people standing outside of my apartment. I had a handful of things left in there, but that's okay. I lean against the wall, trying to listen in. So, you really think this guy went out of his way to do this? The policeman says. He has dark brown hair and a long, lanky figure. His voice is younger and easily excitable, seemingly new to the job. I don't know. It's really odd. I don't see this random guy with no history of crime harming like this. This officer is a little bigger, his weight being distributed more in his stomach. His voice is deep, withered with age. I mean, haven't we seen this before? There's gotta be a different case. Have you been on a case like this? Sadly, Thomas, I've been in this field for so long that I don't think I'll come across a case I haven't seen before. Usually, it's a family member doing something this violent. I don't think that it was family. I think it was her ex-boyfriend. I wish I had gotten to see it for the experience. Yeah, Kane. No, Thomas, you don't. The older man cuts him off, going back to banging on my door, expecting a response. Barry, this guy probably didn't even do it. We've been banging on this door for 20 minutes. No one is going to come out. Then we're going in. The door gets kicked open, and I decide to make my move to leave then. They begin searching my apartment, and as I turn away, I hear gagging noises. Barry! Oh my God. How long has she been here? What do we do? Go call the sheriff, now. We need backup. Take a deep breath. I don't know what to do. I hear the older man pick up his phone, so I make my run for it. I leave the apartment building through the back door, where I know the cameras don't work. I make my way towards the next spot, changing my clothes halfway through. I slip the blue jeans over my muscular frame, pulling my new red sweater over top of my arms. The cop cars begin, flying down the road towards my old apartment. As I make my way down to a new life, I take a moment, thinking about everything that got me here. I think of the blood splattering her purple light, the fear permanently etched into her face as I brought the knife down over and over and over again. My hands shake, remembering the soft pink pig that was laying in her bed. I think of the smell of that delicious cherry shampoo, the one that peppered her body in her last moments. I'm lost in thought when a conversation right outside my hideout begins taking place. Dude, did you hear what was found last weekend? No, what happened? They found this girl totally butchered in her apartment. She was only 20. Her insides were on the outside. Oh my God, that's disgusting, dude. Have they found him yet? I decide to play this for laughs, coming around the corner. Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but what are you talking about? They eye me up and down, looking really confused. The taller man was grossed out by the conversation, seeming upset at my appearance. They were about the same age as her, probably 21 at most. The short man looked very excited to get to explain the tale again. As he begins to describe my crime, I laugh. I don't think they'll find him. He's probably halfway across the country by now. There's no chance he'd stick around. I start to walk away, laughing to myself and thinking about how lucky they'll feel if I ever manage to get caught. Story 4. The knock that wouldn't stop. It started the night my neighbor disappeared. I remember because it was freezing. One of those November nights when the air itself feels sharp. The police were already on our street when I got home from work. My neighbors. Blue lights danced against the bare trees, and an officer waved me around the cul-de-sac. I didn't know Mrs. Harding well, just enough to say hello when she watered her plants. But when they said she'd vanished, without a trace, something in me went cold. I tried to shake it off, made some soup, and turned on the TV. But around 10:30, there was a knock at my door. 3 knocks. Slow. Heavy. At first, I thought it was the police doing interviews, so I opened it without checking the peephole. But there was no one there, just the porch light buzzing and the wind pushing at the hedges. I told myself it was kids, or maybe the wind had knocked something over. I locked the door and went back to the couch. At 11:15 p.m., it came again. 3 knocks, the same rhythm. "All right, cut it out," I shouted, standing up this time. Not funny. Nothing. I grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer and opened the door a crack. Again, no one. But this time, I noticed something strange. There were wet footprints on my welcome mat. Bare feet. Small, like a woman's. That's when I started to feel afraid. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it for a moment, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock. Everything felt too quiet. I called my friend Mark, who lived 2 streets over. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Did you hear anything weird tonight?" "No," he said. "Why?" "Someone's knocking on my door. Twice now. No one's there." He laughed. "Probably some neighborhood prank. You watch too many horror movies." "Yeah," I said, though my voice didn't sound like mine. He offered to come by, but I told him not to bother. I hung up, checked the locks again, and went to bed. I must have fallen asleep around midnight because I woke to a sound that made my stomach twist. Knock, knock, knock. It was softer this time, almost polite. I sat up, my heart hammering. The sound wasn't coming from the front door anymore. It was coming from my bedroom window. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then a voice whispered through the glass. "Please, let me in. It's so cold." It sounded like a woman. Her voice was trembling. I swallowed hard and reached for my phone with shaking hands. "Who is this?" I said, my voice barely audible. "Please," she whispered again. He locked me out. I turned on the flashlight and, against every instinct I had, pulled back the curtain just enough to see outside. There was a woman standing in the yard. She was pale, barefoot, wearing a thin nightgown that clung to her like wet paper. Her hair was tangled, dripping, but what froze me wasn't her appearance, it was her face. It was Mrs. Harding. I stumbled backward, dropping the phone. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. When I looked again, she was gone. I called the police. They came, searched the yard, the street, the woods behind the house. Nothing. No footprints this time, no evidence anyone had been there at all. The next morning, they found Mrs. Harding's body in the river. They said she'd been there for 3 days. I moved out a week later. I still can't sleep when it rains, because sometimes when the wind picks up and the night gets quiet, I swear I can hear it again. Knock, knock, knock. Story 5. when he calls. While my father worked night shifts, graying and groaning on his forklift, and Mommy laughed with the Proud Boys in a pub just north of nowhere, my grandfather spent his retirement shoving gauze into my festering wound of a childhood. I'd play my favorite Madonna CD and sing and dance for a crowd of one, my babysitter, my grandfather, grinning in a rocking chair sullied with the carvings of a child's fingernail. I basked in it. His love, the evenings we spent laughing and playing, the earthy smell of him I'd catch when he leaned in close to say goodnight. He interrupted one such performance suddenly, said he'd forgotten to take out the trash, that he'd be right back, and to stay inside. I often wonder if he knew, and ached to recount his tone, to recall whether he told me sternly, in a panic, or perhaps sweetly as a secret goodbye, a final goodnight. It was so long ago, I hardly remember the waiting. To a child just learning how to tell time, it was as if it stopped altogether, or stretched. Hours could have passed, or 15 minutes. It had been long enough to feel unnerved, and far too long spent alone in the dark. I called for him from the front porch, begged into a starless pit of night, where I could not decipher the seam between heaven and earth. The streetlights flickered with blessed futility, concealing the scene from all but a concerned neighbor coming to check on a screaming child. That wasn't the first time I'd seen my father cry, but it was the worst. I watched him from the couch, hunched over the kitchen table and blubbering into the phone. My hulking brute of a father, seeming so small. We kept the rocking chair. It was all that was left of the man we both loved most in this world. Strangers would always tell me it was okay to cry, as if I didn't understand, but I knew he was gone. I never cried, but I knew he was gone. So it is shocking to me now, barely a year older, with my fingers plunged deep into a deposit of clay on the side of a private mountain road, that I hear my grandfather's voice. It is calling my name, and it's coming from the woods. It funnels up and out into the sky, riding the gray autumn clouds that pass overhead, and echoes through the twisted trunks and shabby neighborhood homes. And it sounds desperate, like it's been searching for me, as if I were the one who left him. I pry a chunk of clay from the ground and stare, my prize slowly melting into gray muck. I strain, I listen, because I don't know what else to do, and I massage the earthy dough. It smells like him. I know he's gone. But now the clay has oozed to the ground, and my feet cut a straight line through the winding gravel road, up the misty hill, and towards his beck and call. The wind grows stronger and colder. It pummels into my chest and face, and it feels like a warning. For a moment, I think I should turn back. I should get my coat and tell my mother before wandering into this dense, damp undergrowth. But the resonance of my name sounds like a prayer, and it pulls the line between us taut. And now I am across the threshold. The trees shudder and pelt me with a layer of stale autumn rain. He is on the edge of my vision, a faceless voice, a beacon in the depth of the thicket. I catch glimpses through spindly branches, browning and balding and shooing me away. But I go. I walk deeper. In just 1 year, I've started to forget his face, and now I have this chance. I traverse the sludge of woodland mire. Rotting leaves stick to my legs, and I plead with him, but he gives me nothing. Time stretches. It's getting dark. My breath forms little clouds, fleeting moments of warmth against my face. I pause. Stillness and quiet. Then I see him, just ahead, hazy. An overexposed photograph, lost information, a failing memory. The only certainty I have is that we are watching each other through crisp, vast silence. Then, a deer. She steps between us, studies him, and turns as her fawn skips from its hiding spot, trampling the twigs and bugs and making its way toward me, playing a game with itself. It approaches, then flicks its tail, and bounds away excitedly, over and over. I get low and hold out my hand, caked in a glove of matte gray, and it regards this carefully. And for a moment, I look up and see his eyes so very clear now, so eager, when a loud crack pierces the air. I think a tree has fallen somewhere nearby. but the mother's left eye erupts from her skull, and she jumps and bucks and wags her muzzle wildly, bellows in a deep fear, a primal panic, dashing this way. A.N.D. That in a half-blind stupor, before a merciful second crack, drops her into a spastic, gory heap. The fawn stays, but I run. He calls for me, but I run. The breeze is at my back, and the red oaks shift their roots to clear my path, but the voice is at my heels, and my lungs are pumping frigid. Air down my throat, it stings, and my feet ache, and the hardened clay cracks and pinches, and the triumphant hunters yip and holler, and my vision blurs, and I burst from the tree line and collapse, sniveling, wet and filthy, and tumbling down the muck of the hill, and I cry. Thank you for watching Nightmare Proof. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the nightmares alive. Have a story of your own? Send it in, and you may hear it here next time. Until then, sleep well if you can.